That's so close to my face. All right. What's going on, beautiful people? I hope you are doing well. Maybe this is a little too close. Let's see. How close can this get? I'm sorry. Okay. All right. What's going on, beautiful people? Jam here again with Reading with Jam. We are continuing Real Artists Don't Starve by Jeff Goings. I'm just going to read for a little bit today. I'm going to finish up chapter 10. Yeah, we're going to finish up chapter 10 today. Reading with Jam. As I mentioned before in my last video, I will be transitioning from doing Instagram Live for Reading with Jam and this practice in public stuff, just because I don't think it is conducive to this platform. I'm going to switch over to Twitch. So if you're interested in continuing to rock with me as I do these random things that I do, go over to twitch.tv/JamileCalpin. You can find my other stuff there. I have some music stuff already up there. If you want to check that out, and I will be working on some music today once I'm done with this. So if you're interested, go over to twitch.tv/JamileCalpin, and I will be doing all my creative stuff there. But today we're going to finish up chapter 10 of Real Artists Don't Starve by Jeff Goings. And after this book, we'll be reading something else, but it will be on the Twitch channel. So thank you all again who have been watching, supporting, and things like that. I really, really, really do appreciate it. But let's get to this book. So we're continuing chapter 10, which is entitled Own Your Work. You gotta breathe. You gotta breathe. That's our voice acting tips when you're doing audiobook narration or any narration of any kind. But here we go, chapter 10. The title of this section that we're starting from is Never Trust the System. In the mid-1990s, while he was in college, Stephen Kellogg started making money playing music. After graduation, though, he got a job with an event promoter. He booked events during the day and took care of logistics at night. It was the kind of job that was close enough to music to feel that he had made the right choice, but far enough away that he felt like a caged animal. What he wanted was to be on stage. He just didn't know how to get there. At the encouragement of some coworkers, Stephen started playing open mic nights. At 24 years old, he began booking small shows wherever he could find a venue. This activated something in him. More than promoting other people's work, his dream was to play. He caught a break playing a show for a college convention, and the exposure led to Stephen booking 40 dates at once. Each show paid between $400 and $750 in cash, which was the kind of money that made him believe this dream just might be possible. If I was breaking even, he recalled, I was thrilled. I just loved the idea that I got to be with my friends playing a guitar. The college tour, which he started playing with some friends, evolved into the formation of an official band, Stephen Kellogg and the Sixers. In 2004, the band signed a contract with major label Universal Records. The group was grateful for their good fortune. Getting a record contract with Universal meant they'd made it, or at least that's what they thought. Like a lot of musicians, they believed the label would take care of their careers, and all they'd have to worry about was making music. Reaching a new level of success, however, brought complications the band wasn't ready to tackle. Perhaps, they thought, they had sold out too soon or in the wrong way. Whatever the case, the Sixers soon learned that success doesn't eliminate self-doubt, and it doesn't guarantee a sustained career. When the Sixers landed their deal, they didn't feel the freedom they had expected, Stephen in particular. Instead, he felt fear. They're going to find out I'm only okay, he said, remembering those feelings years later. And my songs are only okay, and I'm not worth their investment. He was realizing his lifelong dream of playing music for a living, and yet the whole time he was afraid it might go away. I always feel like the bottom is about to drop out, he confessed. From 2003 to 2012, Stephen toured with the Sixers, recorded 7 studio albums, played more than 1,200 shows, and shared the stage with James Brown. Who would regard these as anything other than successes? Turns out, Stephen himself. I didn't feel like I was reaching the next level, he said. recalling the events from his home in New England. I spoke with him on the phone one afternoon when he was supposed to be cleaning the basement. At times, his voice was confident and pure, and at others, it wavered with uncertainty. I could hear the empathy and vulnerability in his voice that must make him a great performer. When he spoke of the feeling that his band was falling apart and there was a disappointment that he just can't shake off, that feeling lingered with me for some time after hanging up. At the height of his success, Stephen Kellogg felt that he had lost control of his career. He wanted to create better art, but didn't know how to do it. At that point, he learned an important truth. While gatekeepers may give you a payday, it always comes with a cost. And for the Sixers, that cost was freedom. Oh my goodness. Thank you guys so much for this record deal. I hope I don't let you down, Stephen said, remembering how he humbled himself before the record executives instead of standing up for himself. I lived that way for years. Sometimes the big break can be a big trap. In 2012, the band arrived at a decision point. Underpaid, overbooked, and exhausted, the band went on hiatus and never returned. We'd been knocking out a lower middle class income for a decade, and I didn't want to crush those friendships. That was a very lonely period of trying to figure out if we'd screwed something up. The story of Stephen Kellogg and the Sixers might be one of the best examples of why artists need to own their work. Had he looked at the careers of other successful artists, Stephen might have seen a theme. When you own your work, you get to call the shots. And when you trust the system fully, there may come a time when the system no longer needs you. I wish I'd had a mentor, he told me. I never picked up on the fact that if you want to get somewhere, look at where you're trying to get, and start by studying the people who've gotten where you want to go. I'm stumbling like crazy. All right. It's a common story. The talent that earns us initial success can quickly become obsolete. And as the demands of the market shift, it's easy to get lost in the shuffle if we are not the ones calling the shots. As quickly as some big breaks come, they can even more easily go. Stephen Kellogg and the Sixers trusted the system, and the system spit them out. The question is, did they really need the system? Risk and reward. In 1979, when George Lucas began work on the sequel to his surprise blockbuster, Star Wars, he had a decision to make. He could leverage his newfound favor with 20th Century Fox, the studio that had backed his unlikely space opera, or he could take a risk and reinvest the money he just made into the next film. The safe bet was to go with the studio and not gamble on the possibility of a sequel coming close to the success of its predecessor. But Lucas was suspicious of Hollywood and wanted to retain as much control of his work as possible. In their first deal, Fox had kept 60% of the profits of Star Wars in exchange for a $10 million investment in a film that was considered a risky endeavor. As one executive put it, "My lord, we are now going to spend $10 million on a film that features something that looks like a giant stuffed animal?" But to everyone's surprise, the film was a runaway success, grossing over $780 million at the worldwide box office. And because of the success, Lucas no longer needed to beg Fox for money. "Okay," he remembered saying, "you took that risk. I'm willing to take the risk on the next one. I'm willing to put up my own money." Lucas invested $20 million of his own money to finance The Empire Strikes Back and used his investment as leverage to negotiate a better deal with Fox. In what was nearly the exact opposite of the previous arrangement, he would start at 50% of the gross profits and eventually go up to 77%, with Fox paying all distribution costs. Fox could release the film to theaters for only 7 years. Afterward, all rights reverted to Lucas. He would also own all TV rights and earn 90% of merchandising profits. Plus, Fox still had to pay him a $10 million advance. Worried that Lucas might take the offer elsewhere, however, the studio begrudgingly signed the deal, and production began. In a matter of a few years, the tables had turned, and now it was Lucas who was in control. When Fox asked the young filmmaker who was going to write, direct, and star in Empire, he replied, "None of your business." When The Empire Strikes Back hit the box office, It grossed 4 times what Star Wars did in the opening weekend and would go on to make more than $500 million worldwide, proving to Hollywood and the rest of the world that the film franchise was here to stay. Because George Lucas took the risk, he got the reward, which was something he would do for the rest of his career. With every new film and project, he would continue to gamble on each new creation, sometimes going nearly bankrupt to do so, but always coming out the winner. He would never leave the fate of his creative work up to anyone other than himself. In the case of Star Wars, ownership made Lucas billions of dollars, but it was never about the money. It was always about the work. The success of Star Wars allowed Lucas to make The Empire Strikes Back on his own terms, and the money he made from the film helped fund the creation of Skywalker Ranch, a place he envisioned as a getaway for filmmakers to dream and create. None of this, however, would have happened had he not fought for control of his work. This is what ownership does. It gives you options. The starving artist tends to trust the system and hope for the best, but that's a bad idea. The object, Lucas said, is to try and make the system work for you instead of against you. The safest place for your work to stay is with you. No one has a more vested interest in your success than you do. Don't trust the system to take care of you. That's not what it was designed to do. Do whatever it takes to own your work. Fight to keep the control. Failure to do this will most likely hurt you for far more than it will help. Ownership can be costly in the short term, but it's worth it in the long term. John Lasseter could have made more money going back to work for Disney as an animator, but he would have given up everything he had sacrificed to gain, namely, freedom and control over his work. It wasn't about the money, it was about who controlled the art. To own our work, we may have to take a temporary pay cut or make a short-term sacrifice, but these decisions allow us to do more of the work we want, the way we want to do it. And if you take the risks no one else will take, you'll earn the rewards no one else gets. Someone must own the work, and that someone might as well be you. As the musician Prince once put it, if you don't own your masters, your master owns you. Ownership buys freedom. When Stephen Kellogg signed his first record deal, he moved too fast. I used to want to become Bon Jovi, he said, and who can blame him? Nobody told him how to take the right steps that lead to long-term creative success. So he emulated what he saw and paid the price. But many artists end their careers right there, licking their wounds without a roadmap for what to do next. They trusted the system, and the system failed them. Fortunately for Stephen, his story does not end there. On the night of his band's final live performance at Webster Hall in New York City, Stephen was offered a solo record deal, which became his first EP, Blunderstone Rookery. Never heard of it, sorry. Since then, he has been touring extensively, now with a new set of rules, ambitions, and expectations in mind. I'm looking at what I can become now, he told me. My whole philosophy with art is to make a living, he said from his home in New England. We all do our art for different reasons, and I do it because I want to take care of my family. I want to be a guy who can give my kids a good start and give back. Now, he does that not beholden to any gatekeeper or system, but as an independent musician. He is excited about what's happening for him these days and proud of his most recent record, the first project over which he has had full creative control. Stephen Kellogg is beginning to embrace the new renaissance. For him, success is being able to look yourself in the eye and know that you did everything you could to be the highest version of what you think you can be. In the end, being an artist is about creating great work, and ownership is the way we get to ensure that greatness. George Lucas eventually did give up complete creative control of his company and sold Lucasfilm to Disney for $4 billion. It was an opportunity to take the franchise to a whole new level, one Lucas was unlikely to reach on his own. And this raises an important point. Sometimes, it makes sense to sell out. Like John Lasseter, Lucas was obsessed with making the work great, and that sometimes means selling your work to someone who can make it better. This always ought to be done in the interest of the art, not as an act of desperation. Jim Henson told his agent to never sell anything he created, but by the end of his life, he too was in talks about an acquisition of the Muppets. We must hold out for as long as we can, being careful not to sell out too soon. It's not that selling out is bad, but selling out in the wrong way, at the wrong time, and for the wrong reasons is what we need to avoid. At some point, however, it may make sense to give up some rights to your work and let go of creative control. If such an opportunity earns you the chance to do more of the work with fewer financial constraints, do it. Just remember these occasions are rare and ought to be approached with caution. We should not forget that when we trust others to act in our best interest, we are betting on a system that is not working for us. If you ever do sell your work to a publisher or record company or an investor, do it on your terms and for the right reasons, not because you think it's the only way. In the cases of Lucas, Lasseter, and Henson, selling their companies meant being able to do better work on a larger scale without losing the quality they had without losing the quality they had spent decades fighting for. We must be wary of accepting early opportunities to sell out, to give up ownership before we know what we're worth. There is almost always something better for those who wait. In 1987, when Cirque du Soleil was invited to perform at an arts festival, the nonprofit group was facing financial problems. The leader, Guy Laliberty, decided to perform at the festival anyway, and the performance ended up being a hit. Afterward, Columbia Pictures took notice of the performance, reaching out to Laliberty about making a movie about Cirque. The offer sounded intriguing enough to pursue, but ended up being too good to be true. When Laliberty realized just how much ownership he would have to give up to get Cirque on the big screen, he pulled out. The experience convinced him his company should transition into the for-profit sector and be privately held so he could have all the freedom he needed to operate the company. Today, Laliberty is a billionaire. We must own our masters, or our masters will own us. All right, that's it. That concludes chapter 10 of Real Artists Don't Starve by Jeff Goings. Thank you all again for checking in and tuning in to Reading with Jam. Like I mentioned in my last video, I will be transitioning, after I finish this book, I'm going to be transitioning to doing my readings with Jam on my Twitch channel, just because I think the platform is more conducive to this kind of stuff. Yes, but thank you again. If you're interested, go get your own copy of Real Artists Don't Starve, whether you're an artist, entrepreneur, or just a interested person in developing yourself and using this, as personal development. I recommend it. It's a really good book. I've been reading it thus far, and it's pretty good. Definitely go check that out. And again, if you're interested in following and keeping up with me and all the stuff that I'm doing, definitely you can go subscribe to my Twitch channel now. Twitch.tv. I will. Maybe I can add in a comment, but Twitch.tv /Jamiel Calpin. Post. There we go. Yes. So, and if you don't see it here, it's in my link tree, which is in my bio, the link in my bio on my Instagram profile. But thank you guys. Talk to you later. Be safe. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday and enjoy the rest of your week coming up. Peace.